Report. Hanging at the Fish Report. Hanging at the Fish Report. Hanging at the Fish Report. For your latest news in high school sports, tune in to the Fish Report. Don't need no bed, don't need no pull. When you tune in to the Fish Report. Hanging at the Fish Report. Hanging at the Fish Report. You got Craig and TK and FFT tuned in at the Fish Report.
Coming to you live from Studio F in Fischio, Ohio. It's the Fish Report Live Show with your hosts, Craig Fissinger and Ken Francis.
Tune in to the Fish Report.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Fish Report Live. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Craig Fissinger. That is Ken Francis. We're your host. Back in our sound room this morning, it's TK and Heavy D. We'll talk to them a little bit later in this show. And out in Studio R, probably have to wake up Covey and Kearns this morning, but looking forward to talking to them about some football. Ken, looks like you got your coffee here this morning, ready for another fun morning on FRL?
Absolutely, Craig. Really looking forward to the show this morning. Got a big interview with Botkins senior golfer, Craig, two-time Shelby County League Player of the Year, and that's Nick Fischio. And, we're going to talk to him about his golf game, what makes him click, the mental aspects of the game. And, of course, we're going to ask him, what does he have planned for the future? And as well as that, Craig, going to get into a little bit of football talk. It's hard to believe, Craig, we're in the middle of the football season. We're in the middle of the volleyball season, the heart of cross-country season. We're starting to figure out, Craig, as we look at these teams throughout the Shelby County League, the GWAC and the MAC, which schools are the contenders and which schools are the pretenders. And we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight with some big CCC football games and some big MAC football games.
Yeah, we're in the middle of all those seasons, but, that golf season, it's always hard to believe, but we're already getting close to the postseason. Talk about that a little bit tonight. And, my son Ross here, who's been on this show many times, he's just starting to get into golf himself, Ken, getting ready to turn 14 years old, thinking about high school next year. And so I've been taking him out a little bit. And, I think we've been out 3 times maybe in the last month. And every time I go out with him, I remember why I quit golfing years ago. It's so hard to put together that you're driving, you're chipping, you're putting. It's a tough game.
It is a very tough game, Craig. And, I used to go out and golfed a lot and thought I really enjoyed golf, Craig, until I quit golfing. And then I realized that I actually enjoyed not golfing a lot more than I enjoyed golfing. So that's why I pretty much don't play the game anymore.
Yeah, well, it's fun to take Ross out, and I enjoy doing that part of it, but it does still get a little frustrating. So I guess I'll hang in there, and maybe next year he'll start doing it in golf, and I can let a real coach take over in high school, I guess.
There you go. You might be the coach.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm going to go that far. I'm busy with the show here, so that'll be my excuse. But, hey, listen, let's talk some football, and for that, let's bring in the guys out there in Studio R, see if they're up this morning.
It looks like Kearns is still eating his breakfast. Kearns, you're going to be okay? You're going to be able to put the bowl of cereal down this morning so you can enjoy the show, or you're going to double duty here and eat and talk at the same time?
I think I'll double duty.
I've heard you talk with your mouth full before, so this should be nothing new.
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, last week on the show we had Junior Bart Bixler, of course, and actually ran into his dad, Andy Bixler, of course, the superintendent over there at Ann. I ran into him in Cedarville at a cross-country meet, and I told him I'm always afraid about jinxing these guys, bringing them on the show before a big game like they played against St. Henry last Friday, but things worked out for Anna, didn't they?
Yeah, they ended up working out real well, and they ended up getting a big win over St. Henry in overtime. Showed a lot of grit there, showed why they're a very good team here in Division 5, can make a playoff run here again for the second straight year here for the Rockets. Surprised me I had St. Henry winning in that game. It's the second week I picked against the Rockets, and the Rockets made me pay yet again with another solid overtime win over the Redskins.
Yeah, they proved us wrong 2 weeks in a row against New Bremen. Also, we had New Bremen winning 2 weeks ago, and then last week we had St. Henry winning, and they're definitely out proving us wrong with the new incoming juniors losing a lot of talent last year, but they're still in stride of last year.
Well, guys, listen, we've been featuring a couple MAC games here every week and getting your opinions on them. I want to get your opinions here this morning again on maybe your top MAC games you see coming up this Friday, as well as I'd like to get your thoughts. There's a big game over in the CCC, Fort Laramie versus Ansonia, the top 2 teams in that conference right now. Want to get your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, well, Anna, as we just mentioned, had 2 big wins lately. They traveled to the home of the Marion Local Flyers, the defending Division 6 state champion team. This Marion Local Flyer offense returns a lot of people back. Pretty much only John Dirksen, the Notre Dame offensive lineman, going for Coach Kelly over there in South Bend. It's pretty much the only noticeable feature gone there from last year's offense. So this is a high-powered, potent Marion offense. I expect them to win. It's going to be a hard game for Anna to win. I think Marion's the clear-cut favorite here in the MAC and maybe D6 other than Coldwater. So I expect Marion to win.
Yeah, you said it all right there, Kobe. Marion's just as low as they were last year coming off that state championship. And also their quarterback, Nate Bruns, he's been phenomenal so far, leading the Flyers to a 4-0 start this season. And they don't look to break stride here, even with a tough opponent like Anna coming into their house. I think they'll win pretty easily.
Guys, I got to agree with you there on both of those picks. What's your thoughts on the St. Henry New Bremen game, Kobe?
New Bremen had a very nice win last week over Fort Covey, and I saw a tweet by I think it was Don Kemper on Twitter, that New Bremen and Parkway won in the same week for the first time since 2007. So you're really seeing a shift between this Parkway and New Bremen program from being bottom feeders to get into the middle of the pack. Coach Schmidt's doing a very good job there at St. Henry, but I'm going to go, at New Bremen, but I see New Bremen not being able to get after St. Henry after having a heartbreaking loss to the Rockets in overtime. Coach Brad Luthman, alumni of Versailles, will have his Redskins ready to go by a final score of 28-14 over the Cardinals.
Yeah, you said it great there, Kobe. I mean, the Cardinals have been having a lot of struggles the past couple years, but they're finally coming around. They had that nice win over Fort Recovery, and even with St. Henry, they had that tough loss last week, but I see them bouncing back real well against the Cardinals.
Now I want to highlight Zach Niekamp, very elite runner for St. Henry. Look for him to be very important in that Redskin offense on Friday.
All right, guys, and as we mentioned, that big game over in the CCC, Fort Laramie and Ansonia, 2 teams sitting there at 3-1 right now. More importantly, 2-0 in the conference. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Laramie quarterback Colin Moore. Daniel and I were talking about this before the show. He's a very good quarterback. I don't think the CCC is as great as MAC necessarily, but you still need a good offense to win in any conference, and that's where Laramie's going. And with a big win over Miami East and a big win over Covington, who I think were the 2 other top CCC schools, I think Laramie should win out, and I think they could be a solid 9-1, 8-2 going into the playoffs, and I think they'll be the cross-county conference champions, and they got an elite running back in Carter Mesher, and they got a lot of speed and skill.
Yeah, those 2 big names right there, Colin Moore and Carter Mesher, they're great in the backfield for the Redskins, and I'd also agree with them being cross-county conference championships this year. Like you said before, the MAC is obviously a better conference, but this one they definitely hold their own, and like you said, those guys they're at 3-1 right now, but I can see them winning out, maybe not losing a game the rest of the regular season, maybe dropping 1 and being that 9-1, 8-2. Maybe a bubble team to win that first playoff win, and just who knows after that for them.
Kobe and Kearns, I got to compliment you guys. I got to agree with your picks tonight, too, by the way. But, here we are Thursday morning. You're getting yourself out of bed before school, before college. You bring your cereal and your breakfast with you. I mean, your hair's still messed up, Kearns, but, you're looking good. Kobe, I can tell you got up about 5 minutes before Kearns did because you ate your breakfast and you combed your hair. But compliments to you guys. Great having you guys join us here on Thursday mornings.
Thank you.
All right, great stuff, guys. Listen, Ken, just one more note on that football talk. The first computer points ratings came out this Tuesday, I believe it was. And, Fort Laramie, of course, in that number 2 spot, their 1 loss is to Minster. And then you see Minster sitting back there at number 4, Ansonia number 5. Thoughts on that, this first ratings coming out?
Well, it's still very early, Craig, but it was a little bit interesting to see that, it all depends on, who beats who. And, Fort Laramie had 2 wins over D5 schools, over Cincinnati Madera and also Miami East, who I think are both D5. So that obviously gave the Redskins a lot of computer points. They're sitting very good right now. I agree with what Kobe and Kearns said. I see them finishing the regular season probably at 9-1. Who knows? They could come in as the number 2, 3. They'll definitely probably be hosting a home playoff game, I would say, at the end of the season. And, of course, if you're a Minster fan, the more games that Fort Laramie wins, the more points Minster's going to accumulate along the way. So I think over time you're probably going to see Minster potentially bypass Fort Loramie into a higher seed, but possibly not. Minster's got some really tough games ahead of them with all this MAC competition. So who knows? But again, the Fort Loramie victories are helping out the Wildcats as well.
All right, going to be awfully fun to watch as the season goes on, that's for sure. Well, we're going to take a short break, but stay right there. When we come back, we're going to talk some golf, including that big interview with Botkins senior Nick Fischio.
My father said it's time to be home man, but don't go and town in the motherland. If you were born with heart, raised on pride, this is gonna go wrong through your bloodline. Oh, bloody bruised and slain. Oh, pride in this name. Well, the skies run deep within this blue, false devised by foolish views. Religious divide among the may create civil war on my family. Oh, hurt and bruised and slain. Oh, pride in this name.
We're talking gears now and talk some golf, and our next guest is the star golfer over at Botkins High School. Last week at the SCAL tournament out at Shelby Oaks, he finished as the medalist, shooting a 74 and led the Trojans to a fourth place finish. He also picked up his second consecutive SCAL Player of the Year award. Joining us on the program now is senior Nick Fischio. Nick, welcome to Fish Report Live.
Hi, I appreciate you having me.
Well, listen, congrats on a great season so far. And as I just mentioned, just picked up your second straight SCAL Player of the Year award. And Nick, when those kind of awards go out to, let's say, football players or volleyball players, you usually hear the athlete, give a lot of credit to their success to their teammates. Can the same be said in golf, where it seems like much more of an individual sport?
Well, you're exactly right that it's definitely a more individual sport, but I still have a team, and really the support from my team members, both in the Botkins Trojans and the team members that I have and coaches and staff and the whole town of Botkins that help me. And really I have Rob Fridley, Nate Fridley, and Craig Sieving down at Shelby Oaks Golf Course. And without their support and without the help and guidance that they've given me my whole career, that's really who I owe the honor of Player of the Year to both times.
Well, speaking of those teammates, can you tell us who makes up that Trojans team?
Absolutely. Besides myself, we have four-year letterman Anthony Opperman, and then behind him is junior Alex Bajwa, and then three freshmen rounded out the team this year, and that was Isaac Sisko, Jamison Meyer, and Jack Dietz.
Hi, Nick. This is Ken Francis. Let's go back to the beginning of your golf career. You mentioned the guys over at Shelby Oaks, Rob Fridley and his team over there, how they've helped you progress to become a much better golfer and the golfer that you are today. What age did you start golfing? When did you realize that you liked the sport? And when did you realize that, hey, I might actually be pretty good golfer someday?
Well, I really started learning how to play golf when I was about 15. It was heading into my year, and it was right away. It was the very first clinic I had with those three guys down at Shelby Oaks, and that's when I realized that, hey, this is something that, I kind of have a knack for it, and I just really caught on to it quickly and loved playing the game. And they really expanded how much I liked playing the game. They make it fun, and it really, really caught me early on. It does bite you like a bug.
Well, Nick, I'm really impressed with the fact that you didn't start golf until you were 15 years old. Honestly, when I asked that question, I thought you were going to say about 5 or 6 years old. So, considering you've only played the game for around 3 or 4 years, you've progressed very quickly for shooting the scores that you're shooting.
Oh, well, thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the mental aspect of golf. You know, I watch golf on TV. I play a little bit of golf. I'm not very good, but I enjoy going out once in a while and hitting the ball. But when you watch it on TV and you see these guys prepare themselves mentally for every shot, you know, tell us about that part of the game, and also when you go into a match against, say, a Shelby County League foe or the Shelby County League Championship, do you just go in with an open mind, or do you do a lot of mental preparation?
Well, this is something that I have to keep working on, and this is probably maybe one of the weakest parts of my game right now. And what's important for me personally when I go into a match is I have to keep expectations out of my head, whether they're high or low. And I have to go into it basically with the mentality that I have to hit that first tee shot as good as I possibly can, and nothing else really matters until that very next shot, and that's the only thing I have to focus on. And if I get too far ahead of myself saying, you know, you're going to shoot even, you might be 1 under today, something like that, it just limits you, and it can even hinder how well you can actually play out there on the course. So that's something I continue to strive to make myself better at each day, and it's a work in progress.
Hey, Nick, you actually you have we're going to talk about the postseason here in a little bit, but you have one more match before that, and that's actually tonight, taking on a very good team over there in the Minster Wildcats. I believe you're playing them out at Shelby Oaks. But what kind of things will you be trying to fine-tune in your game tonight to get you ready for the postseason?
Well, I never want to say that any match is unimportant, but as we get later into the season, and once the league wraps up, they start to feel a little bit more like practices or scrimmages. And I like to think about it as I go out there and I find the things that maybe I need to work on and see where I'm struggling a bit. And then I take those back to my coaches, and they have the answers just about always for anything that I could be doing wrong. So that's what I'm going to be looking for tonight, is just making sure that I identify where I have some maybe weak spots, and then use this weekend to work that out with my coaches and prepare for Tuesday.
Nick, speaking of Tuesday, let's talk a little bit about the postseason. You had the Shelby County League tournament. You now go into the sectionals next Tuesday at Beechwood Golf Course in Arcanum. Tell us a little bit about what you expect. The competition obviously ramps up a little bit. You got a lot more teams there. You know, you're going in with your team, but you also going in with the individual effort to try to advance yourself to the district tournament. Tell us your thoughts on playing Beechwood and what you feel it'll take to get to the district level.
Absolutely. Beechwood is typically a pretty difficult course. A lot of players struggle on it, myself included. And it's really going to be important, like I said earlier, that I take it shot by shot, because it's easy when you have a tournament that can advance you to a further tournament in the postseason to get caught up in a number that you really have to shoot. So I like to take it shot by shot, like I said earlier. And by the end of the round, sometimes, hopefully, I don't even know what I shot, and that's usually my best scores. So that's what I'm really hoping to achieve when I go down there to Beechwood, and that's generally the most important part.
That's a very interesting and a very good philosophy there that you're using for some of the younger golfers out there just starting to play the game. I think that's a great idea, Nick. You're a senior. We talk to a lot of our seniors and ask them, you know, what's in line for you after graduation? Does it involve golf? So tell us a little bit about your future. Any plans yet for college or what might go on after your graduation at Botkins?
Absolutely. Well, I think I've got a few options left for colleges. I've narrowed it down to a pretty short list, and I'm hoping to be able to play for basically any of them that I'm looking at right now, like Findlay, and I'm looking at Tiffin, and most of those they're all Division II actually, which is a very competitive level that I'd like to play in. And when I'm there, I'm hoping to study criminal justice.
Great.
Hey, Nick, listen, one more question before we let you go. But a little earlier in the interview, Ken asked you about or mentioned professional golf. I wanted to ask you, is professional golf something that you watch? And if so, do you have a favorite golfer, pro golfer of yours?
Oh, definitely, yeah. I might watch it even a little bit too much. It's one of the only channels on the TV I actually know by heart is the Golf Channel. And it's on just about 24/7 at my house. And if there was one professional golfer that I truly admire, it's definitely Jordan Spieth.
Great. That's awesome. That's great. I like Jordan as well, Nick, and I look forward to following you in the postseason. Wish you the best of luck in that match tonight, actually, against Minster. That'll be a very competitive match for you. Obviously, they've got a very good golf team over there, and I'm sure they've got some guys that'll be trying to throw some low numbers out there at Nick Fischio tomorrow or tonight. So, best of luck in the postseason. Appreciate you being on our show this morning.
Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it. Big fan of the show. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Nick.
Great. Thank you.
All right, and that was Botkins senior star Nick Fischio. Like you said, big match for him tonight, taking on the Minster Wildcats, and that'll get him all tuned up for tournament here next week. All right, well, let's go back to the sound room check-in with TK and Heavy D this morning. It looks like they're awake. They must have their cereal eaten already. And TK, we talked to a very big star over there in Botkins, a two-time SCAL Player of the Year. I know you've got your segment, your Star of the Week. Before we get to that, though, I know you attended that big game, volleyball game on Tuesday night. The Russia Raiders taking on Jackson Center, kind of a battle for first place there. And just your quick synopsis of what happened in that one.
Just a great game all the way around, obviously battling back and forth. As volleyball and most sports in high school, momentum's shifting back and forth. The Raiders did come out strong, played very well. Of course, you never count out Jackson Center. They came back, always fundamentally sound, and just came down to who lasted the longest. The Raiders got the upper hand in that fifth set and kind of just rode that into the end of the win. So probably could have gone either way. The Raiders got up quick in the fifth, and that was all the difference once got to that point of the game.
It's a big win for Coach Watkins and his staff over there at Russia, TK. But, they've got to refocus now. Tonight they got a big game as well as the Redskins come calling into Claire Steenebo Gymnasium. What are your thoughts on that one?
As you said, another big game. A Fort Laramie team that seems to be struggling it. Obviously, the record's not what you're used to with a Fort Laramie volleyball team, but they keep having some big wins here and there. They're not going to come in and lay over. They'd love to be a spoiler and hang that second loss on the Raiders in the league. As we talked earlier in the year, every league night is a must-win now for the Raiders, especially if they want to have any part of that number one at the end of the season. So can't look past them, can't put down their guard, got to come out strong and take a win here at home if they want to stay in the race.
And, of course, any of our fans out there or any of the viewers out there that are watching that are fans of volleyball can't make it to the Claire Steenebo Gymnasium. I know you and Covey are going to be calling the action, so they can just tune into that on the Fish Report website. Just click the audio link, and they can listen to you guys call the play-by-play on that one. But let's get to your Star of the Week. I know something we anxiously await for every week. Who you picking this week?
This week I'm going over to Fairlawn. Their senior Lauren Dungeon and a game volleyball match against Covington had 21 kills and 10 assists, or rather 10 blocks in that game. So huge game for them. Fairlawn playing well, probably not the league record they want. They're at 2-4, or rather we're at 2-4 after that Covington game, but at 6-4 overall. So playing well outside the league. A nice team over there, and they've got a nice JV. So they're starting to build back up and give some shout outs to that group and the good effort they're putting on right now in their volleyball team.
Well, Wade Wilhelm would be proud because I remember, I just remember Fairlawn volleyball from back in my day, and Fairlawn dominated it, and they had a coach over there by the name of Wade Wilhelm, and he could coach volleyball. Remember him?
Absolutely. They had a pretty good player over there, too, by the name of Winnie Belisle. I remember she was an all-state player and very good volleyball player back in the day. Their programs had a tradition of success over there. Maybe not so much here recently, but Lauren Dungeon, a girl that I know we talked about her last year in basketball, so kind of a two-sport athlete there from what I know, and very good volleyball player too. So, all right, Heavy D. Well, listen, I know the mailbag's probably full again this week. A lot of questions getting thrown at you. People want to know what they want to know. They want to ask Heavy D for the answers, and you got them.
Yeah, well, before we get into that, I was reading our contract, me and TK's contract during the commercial break, and it doesn't say anything in there about being able to eat cereal in the sound room. So I think pigs in a blanket is what me and TK is going to have next Thursday morning, if that's okay.
Well, there's a lot of equipment back there, guys. I wouldn't want you to spill anything and cause a problem. So out there in Studio R, it's just kind of like a broom closet out there. So we don't care so much about those guys.
I'm a member of the Clean Plate Club, so I think we'll be okay there. Back to the question of the week. Great question from an avid viewer. This time of year is really special, and we've all done this. We've all gone to Washington, D.C. with either our sons or daughters in the 8th grade trip. And this question has to do with Washington, D.C., and the question is about the Washington Monument, believe it or not. And if you look closely at the Washington Monument, I've got a picture here. Let me pull that up. You can see that about 150 feet up from the base of the monument, the color of the granite changes. And the question from our viewer was, well, why is that? Well, that's a great question. And
is it Donald Trump's fault? I'm going to guess it's his fault somehow.
No, it's not Donald Trump's fault. It might be tomorrow, but we'll see about that. But couple of fun facts about the Washington Monument. In 1783, when before President Washington was even president, they recommended that they build a monument for Washington because he was the commander-in-chief of the Revolutionary War. He said, "That's poppycock. We're not building a monument for me." But when he died, they recommissioned it again. And about 65 years later, they finally laid the first cornerstone of the Washington Monument with granite from a local quarry there in the D.C., Maryland area. And believe it or not, a young congressman from Illinois, Abe Lincoln, was there when they laid the cornerstone for the Washington Monument in 1848. It was privately funded, and after about 6 years, I don't know what they did with all the money, but they only built it 150 feet tall. They must have drank the rest of it or spent it away on something. They ran out of money. The monument stood as it was, 150 feet tall, unfinished, for 25 years.
Wow.
You talk about red tape, and it's just the way it is in the swamp. Well, in 1879, they resumed money from the government, and they got, this time, the granite was from a quarry in Arkansas. So that's the reason why it's slightly different, is the first batch of granite was from a local quarry. The second batch was from Arkansas. They finished it in 1884. So 101 years after they recommended to build it, they finally finished it. That's Washington, D.C. for you folks. 550 feet tall. It's the world's tallest obelisk. It was the world's tallest building until the Eiffel Tower was built over in Europe. So that's what we have.
That's great stuff. I tell you, the guy amazes me.
Well, listen,
how he knows so much stuff.
I'm supposed to head on that 8th grade trip to D.C. next month. I actually, believe it or not, my first trip over there. And I think I'm going to skip the Washington Monument part now because I won't need to hear it because I heard it from Heavy D.
Well, I think I'd go take focus on that granite on 150 feet up and
maybe I'll tell the story.
It. Yeah,
maybe
you tell the story. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys, listen, great stuff. Always enjoy checking in with our sound room, that's for sure.
Those guys are great. They know a lot of stuff, I tell you.
All right, well, listen, that's going to wrap it up for us tonight. We do want to say special thanks to our guest, Botkins golfer Nick Fischio, for joining us on the program. For Ken, myself, and the rest of the Fish Report crew, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back again next week, and have a great rest of the day.
Hanging at the Fish Report. 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 For your latest news in high school sports, tune in to the Fish Report. Don't need no bed, don't need no pull when you tune in to the Fish Report. Hanging at the Fish